Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Junia Doan's The Spark. I'm Junia Doan and thank you for joining us. Today I'm here with Joseph Yezak, the program manager for Delta Broadcasting at Delta College. Welcome, Joseph. As much as I've been around Delta and known and participated in Delta Broadcasting, I would like to hear you tell me about how big Delta Broadcasting is.
Well, we are a collection of both a television station and a radio station as well. A lot of people forget that we have our own radio station here on campus. But we have television, we have 4 channels. Way back in about 2003, I think we went digital. We were the first television station in the state to go digital, so we had 4 channels. Up to that time, you know, how you turned on channel 19 and all you got was one channel, channel 19. But now we have 4 unique channels that you can tune into with different variety of programming. So we are a collection of educational programs on the TV side, as well as news and information, as well as music on the radio side as well.
And how would someone new to the area learn about which channel did what?
Well, mostly when you watch the channels, you kind of get an idea of the feel of each individual television channel. When you're searching for what would be considered a PBS channel, what everyone grew up with, that would be our main channel, our 19.1 channel. But then if you venture off and go into the other channels, you'll notice that we have a channel called QTV Create, which is devoted to how-to programs, travel programs. We have a QTV Kids channel, which is just what it says, children's programming 24/7. And then our last one, which is one of our newest programs, is QTV World. So this is international news as well as international documentaries as well.
And for the parents tuning in, what is the channel number for the kids' special channel?
That is 19.4. It's actually my favorite channel.
Why is it your favorite channel?
I like children's programming. I've always done, growing up, I loved watching cartoons, and when I went beyond that, it still continued. I still watch cartoons. So.
Is it a different viewpoint than adult programming?
A little bit. PBS is so great that they create programs that is great for kids and that you can learn from it, but they also incorporate adult aspects into it. So parents can actually sit and watch the programs and learn a lot from it. They also have some inside jokes. I have to admit, when Daniel Tiger, which is a recreation extension of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Oh. So they took Daniel Tiger, made him older, and he had a son. So it's an animated piece. So they're talking about more of the social aspects of it, which is great. It's wonderful to learn everything about STEM, but there's still that social interaction, how to deal with emotions and what you're learning. I have to admit that there was one episode where they dealt with the fear that children have about when you drop your child off at daycare. Mommy and daddy go back, go to work, but the song is like, grown-ups always come back. And mind you, my wife and I, probably very sleep deprived at the time.
Yes.
We started to snicker because it's like, are they telling the children that adults are coming back, or is it telling the adults, you have to come back to get your child?
Right.
So,
right.
So, which can be tiring sometimes. Obviously, parents want to come back and get their kids, but that's an inside joke between my wife and I. Every time that we see that and hear that, we just snicker, because it's like, Yeah, there's another way that you can look at these songs.
Well, when our daughter was at school, at elementary school, someone did forget to pick up the child. And the principal had to stay. I don't know how they resolved it, but anyway, you know, life happens, forget, who knows, you know, or a medical emergency. Anyway, besides that, so just as a side question, why didn't they just rerun Mr. Rogers?
Well, actually, that has been a question that a lot of people have been asking. And growing up, you know, I enjoyed Mr. Rogers to a certain point, but it's a slower pace show.
Oh.
And you know, a lot of kids today, everything since the MTV generation, everything is a little bit more is a more fast-paced life and living. The other thing, so they wanted to make it more relatable. The other issue that they had, and what a lot of people forget, Mr. Rogers always looked at certain technology.
Oh.
And, you know, bringing out, here's a telephone with the rotary dial or the old copiers that you used to have in the 80s that doesn't even exist anymore. A lot of that you just can't run anymore. But the original concept of what Mr. Rogers is, that's what is important. It's important now. And to put it in the animation makes it so much better because now kids can relate to it a little bit. It now becomes timeless. And it was approved by Mr. Rogers' widow. So it's got the stamp of approval. So
does she look at every script?
I don't know if she looks at every script, but they definitely does approve of the way that the series is going because it's still carrying on the Mr. Rogers legacy. So.
I see. Well, back to you. So what got you interested in this kind of a field before you appeared here as our manager of Delta Broadcasting? Were you, we should say that we had an earlier conversation about what moves you more, music or the visual?
Yeah, I was always wanted to do visuals. I wanted to go into movies, actually. Yeah. And I got the interest from watching PBS, a pledge program of all things. Everyone always complains about pledge programming, but when I was 8 or 9 years old, PBS did a pledge program dealing with the making of The Dark Crystal. It's a Jim Henson production, and it just caught my attention, and I wanted to learn everything about it. And I was also a big Star Wars fan, and they also did a Star Wars documentary too, and I just ate it all up. And that grabbed my interest. So basically what I did is when I was in high school, that's the path I wanted to go. I wanted to go into movies. And when I went into college is when cable really ballooned.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, wow, that's great. I'll switch instead of making movies, going to more broadcasting field. I spent about 12 years working in commercial production. And one of the stops, I was in the programming department. And it's like, well, that's something I would love to do one day. And I got the opportunity that the program manager position was open here at Delta about 14 years ago. And I applied and I was hired. Barry Baker took a chance on me and he saw something in me at that time. He's like, we'll give you a shot. Let's see how it goes.
Nice.
And I think right now I'm the second longest running program manager here at the station. We've been here for over 50 years, and we've only had 3 program managers.
What did you find that you knew that would help in the job, and what really surprised you how to sort of pick up speed to learn?
It was learning how, the main thing, coming from commercial production, or the commercial stations, everything is pretty much set. Every day it's the same program. The one thing that I learned coming to PBS is every day is basically different. There's some programs that are the same, all the same children's program happens, but as a programmer for a PBS station, you control everything.
Like what is everything?
Everything as in, we don't need to put nature on at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. If our viewers like it at 9 o'clock better, we have the luxury of doing that. Where the commercial stations, okay, this program has to air on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. You can't move it. It has to stay there. But we can change it. And if there's a local program that we wanted to create, we have a live show on Tuesdays at 8. We can put that in. We do have to follow some rules from PBS. They would like us to air certain programs on certain dates because when they go get underwriting nationally, they want to say, you're going to see nature on Wednesdays. So that helps to pay the bills overall to help the stations, because that's one of the funding sources is national underwriters. So, so we try to keep it on that particular day. But for the most part, there is a multiple amount of commercial or programming sources that I pick programs from. So then I really listen to our viewers. So when they make their pledges and call and say, hey, I love this particular program or this type of program, that's the reason why they're there. A lot of people keep asking me, why do we keep having Lawrence Welk on? Because when we make our pledges, people are still calling and making the donations. Now, they're a lot smaller these days, but they still believe in that show. And I look at us as we owe it to that audience. They started this. They invested in it. And you know, it's 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week that we contribute to it. And that particular program does cost an extra amount of money that we usually spend. So, but
because you're buying it or renting it from whom?
we are purchasing it from Oklahoma. They own the rights to the Lawrence Welk show. So
Oklahoma PBS or Oklahoma commercial?
There's a Oklahoma, it's not PBS, but it's another production studio down in Oklahoma that has that right. So we deal with PBS. There's also American Public Television and Executive Program Services. So there's a large array. We purchase stuff that is a la carte. So it's like, oh, for X amount of dollars, you can get all these programs. But there are some other programs that would be considered syndicated programs that we have to pay above and beyond. And mostly that's our Saturday night lineup between you know, Lawrence Welk, our British comedies, Red Green. You know, they're still there because people love it. I still get people calling and asking, why do you always have Mrs. Bucket on? Why is Keeping Up Appearances on it? We've seen the same 52 episodes. And it's like, because our viewers love it. I've tried changing it a couple times, and they're like, no, I want to see that episode. I want to see that series. So that's one of the reasons.
Nice to have that kind of devotion.
Yeah. And then what makes also unique with PBS, I just had this past week. A viewer called and said, hey, there's a certain program, series that I saw that was on. I don't see it at all. Do you know when it's going to be on? I'm like, well, let's see. It was, because I get so many program offers. It's like, well, let's see. Oh, yep, there's 3. There's an hour of each. What are you doing? What's your schedule like in April at 7 p.m.? Are you available to watch a show? She's like, yeah. Okay, I'm going to put your show on for the next 3 weeks.
Oh, she was thrilled.
Oh, yeah. And
really thrilled.
Because I have to fill that, and it's great when I get community reaction of a certain program.
Now, I never knew that you welcome, or that even people called to make requests or criticize deletions.
A lot of them we get to criticizing it, but it's great when we have some positive input. Another series was saved because I got a letter from somebody that says, hey, you know, this particular program, I really like it, makes my week. And I'm like, because if I don't get any feedback, I'm like, I don't know if people are enjoying it.
Right.
So I was going to take it off in March, but all of a sudden this gentleman says, I really like it. So I'm like, well, that's more feedback than I've gotten before. So if it makes his day, it's probably making other people's day as well. So I kept it in.
Fabulous. So when they went to 4 channels, not 4 times what the programming was before, but certainly some multiple of what it before. What became the emphasis, or has that changed in the years you've been here?
Well, for the channels, that I came in, at least the Create channel and the Children's channel was in place prior. So I've just expanded that as now that everybody can get all 4 channels. Our World channel was actually, it was in Annenberg. It was more of the learning, so classroom learning. And then all of a sudden Annenberg decided, okay, we're going to go by way of the web, so we're not going to broadcast anymore. So I'm like, okay, what do I put in its place? I found this Worldview, MHZ Worldview channel, which was international news and documentaries, movies. So it's like, oh, that's perfect. You don't get that anywhere else. I think we have a very international population here.
Yes.
So it's like, I think people would love it. And we had a great relationship until November, when all of a sudden they said, oh yeah, we're canceling it.
Oh.
It's now going to be web-based only. I'm like, okay, what to replace it with? So it's been a very stressful few months.
I hear that, and more.
Yeah.
You know, people abandon where they were in order to be wherever they think people are going.
Right. But what's great is with World, it's always been in the back of my mind. It was a similar type of a channel, and this is supported by PBS itself, where the other 2 channels was not PBS based.
I see.
So there's a good bet that World is going to be around for quite a while.
Interesting. So people would go to World not for news necessarily, but for longer discussions or on-site visuals?
Oh yeah, you get all kinds of international documentaries on there, as well as they still have international news. We're losing the international movies aspects of it. That's the one bad thing. And a lot of people did enjoy Magre and Montalbano, but unfortunately the rights probably were getting too expensive. So we weren't seeing it as often.
So you're not showing movies, but you were at one time?
Yeah, we were.
Foreign film?
Yeah, foreign films with subtitles. And
oh, really? That's interesting to know. It doesn't bother me, but it does bother other people to have to read something.
Yeah. And based on people that enjoyed watching international movies, PBS is offering up some other international movies as well. So I'm now putting that on the main channels. Usually it's Thursday evenings at about 10 p.m. So there's more dramas that I put at that point. So once again, it's hearing people enjoying it.
So you've moved into an entrepreneurial period where it's not only, choosing which flower, but where are the flowers?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a lot of paying attention to what people enjoy, trying to match up to keep people watching through the entire night, if that works. And once again, it goes back to listening to the viewers. So when they leave messages or call me directly or send letters about the programs that they enjoy, I try to keep the programs where they are, because I know growing up, you
depended on it.
I expected a program being at a certain time, certain week, all the time. I didn't like change. This is what I was expecting, and luckily for the past 14 years, that's what people do as well. That's what they're expecting. So I try to keep it with that. So I at least keep the genre the same. I may change the program, but at least the genre stays the same.
What are your satisfactions in the job?
My main one has always been every day is different. I can come in thinking I'm going to be doing one part of the job. Next thing I know, I'm doing something completely different. So a lot of people, and even some of it when it comes to paperwork is different sometimes each day. But to create the schedule is wonderful. I'm also in charge of programming the radio station as well. So we just went to streaming. So we now are doing things 24/7 on the radio side. So now it's like, okay, what can I do to make the radio schedule interesting as well to get people to listen? So it's wonderful when people do listen and they like what's on.
If someone wanted to hear the program in the middle of the night on streaming, walk us through the steps that have to be taken for that person at home to hear it.
Well, there's actually right now there's 2 ways that you could do it. Number one, you go to deltabroadcasting.org, and we have a Listen Live button. So you just click on that, and whether your smart device or your computer, you'll be able to hear it that way. We just got into smart speakers. So then all you have to do on whatever your smart speaker you have, just ask for Delta College Public Radio, and then that will appear. So then you can listen to it that way.
I have the first time I heard of it. That's fantastic.
We're really new into the smart speakers. The streaming we just started this past October 2019. So we got the last piece of equipment we needed in order to do that 24/7. So.
Oh my goodness.
So there's been a lot of change in the radio station over the past 2-3 years.
Do you know enough about how far the territory is covered by the television channel or the radio channel? What territory would you say is Delta's territory?
Well, luckily the TV and the radio, they pretty much cover the same distance, because actually they're on two different towers across the street from each other. But we go as far north as Tawa City. We can go as far west as past Mount Pleasant. To the south, radio once again is a little bit longer, but you can get us all the way down to Ann Arbor to a certain extent.
Really? That's far.
And I usually always say Lake Huron is the eastern border, but I have gotten a couple emails from people in Canada that can get us as well.
Right?
So
The big thing I've learned is you solicit or welcome interactions with the audience, and you listen, you pay attention to it, to the requests or the opposite. That's really nice to know. I never knew, well, because I'm always about individuals. Let's listen to everybody and hear what they have to say. There may be some idea there. But sometimes, like in this, I obviously just view myself as a receiver and I have no say. So that's big to know that it's close to its audience or wishes to be.
That's one of the things that we strive for, is that's whenever we make our pledge pitch, whether it's radio or TV, that's one of the things we try to point out. It's when you make that pledge, you can talk to and communicate with the program manager who is right here in your community. You know, usually I say on the radio, people from either coast are the ones that making a lot of the decisions for a lot of the various stations. More stations are being bought up, like Sinclair has a lot of stations all over the place, but what's being played in New York is the same as being played here in Michigan, whereas for your local PBS station, it's right here.
Did you have any adjustments to be made? Can you remember back when you moved with your wife or pre-wife to this area from downstate?
There wasn't too much of a change in this regards, because I always would come up to Birch Run to go shopping when I was little. So it's like I kind of knew this community really well. I went to college up in the UP. So I very much...
What, Northern Michigan?
Northern Michigan.
Oh, very good.
So I was very familiar with the state. The culture shock was when I moved to Montana. It was a slight culture shock. Luckily, I spent 5 years in the UP, so that rural type community helped. But yeah, coming back here to the Great Lakes Bay region, it's similar to being at home for me.
So what was different about being further out west?
The main thing was that people did not know about the Great Lakes.
They didn't even know geographically that it was there?
It was a combination. Either they didn't realize it was there, or they didn't understand that the Great Lakes were really large lakes. Because I would always talk about it, and once again, it's like, oh yeah, Great Lakes, you can't see the other side, and they're looking at me strangely. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So, even though the one positive thing was in Great Falls, Montana, where I was living, there was an Air Force base, so at least they knew about euchre, which once again, I didn't really know it. It was such ingrained as a Michigan thing. Because when I lived in Kentucky, they didn't know about euchre. But
is that right?
Yeah, but in Montana, or at least the people I knew, they knew about euchre because of the military, because of the Air Force.
Do you have children?
I do now. Yeah.
And do you train them up on euchre?
No. My wife isn't very good with euchre, and unfortunately, we're only a 3, so we always need a 4th.
Oh, yeah. So what are your plans now, personal plans? I always found in my life the culture changes around me every 7 years, so I was like getting a little message, do I need to change my life or not?
I don't know. I still enjoy, everything has been centered around my daughter these days. That's the main focus. That's the one thing I do enjoy about Delta College. We're a family here. It's very family oriented. So I know there's other jobs and places where you don't have the luxury of adjustments, but luckily here we do. So that's always wonderful.
Thank you. So we've learned a great deal, more about the station than I knew before, which was basically that it's radio and 4 channels TV, and more importantly than any of that is Joseph's very receptive to your thoughts. What you like, request, or even don't like, express. That's very nice. He's a very good manager because of that, in my opinion. Also, we found out that he's entrepreneurial. He said a few times, every day is different. And for some people that's good, and for some people it's not good. So know who you are. The other thing is that I think that, as he said earlier, he relishes very early television, visuals. He's drawn to movies. Ask yourself what your passion is. Look for it. Get the right training, and maybe you can do it. And the other thing I want to say is his amiable personality. That's very nice in a high-stress job. And more importantly, he likes it. He feels satisfied by it. So I remind you, A, thank you for tuning in. B, go out and do something nice for someone you know and someone you don't know, and do it again next week. And I'm adding to that, be generous, be kind, and smile. People need some smile, especially in the dead of winter. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadonsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadonthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.